Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I want to talk about a few miners. Usually I don't do videos on Mondays, but I'm going to break the tradition because I'm bored because they shadow banned me over on X and I got nothing else better to do. I'm just going to go through a couple of miners here: CleanSpark, Mara, Bitfarms, CIFR, IREN, and WULF. These are the 6 miners that I do own. And what you're really seeing here is the monthly chart of CleanSpark. Let's start with CleanSpark, looking at the Ichimoku cloud. Ichimoku cloud is basically a way for you to look at different supports and resistance based on calculation from various moving period averages. And what you're seeing here, you have a bullish cross of the blue line here, cross above the red line here, just consider a bullish Tenkan Kitchen cross. And price has just simply been stuck in between the Tenkan Kitchen underneath below as support, as well as the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud over here as resistance. So far, we're on the 6 months of trying to break inside the cloud. I do think that July is probably going to be the month to really truly break inside. I'll tell you why in a second. I'm going to show you the Subichi cloud, but you can also see that so far, whale momentum has been going down for about 4 months straight, and this month so far, for at least for the first day of the month in July 1st, looks like there's increase in momentum coming in, right? So far there's a little bit more of a bullish look in terms of whales momentum. I do think that we might end up having consolidated sideways here, enough form a big enough bull flag back test the Tenkan Kitchen here for plenty of times in the month of July or potentially the month of August. Is going to be a month for you to really help break through inside the cloud for good. And when you break inside the cloud, really depends on where it's going to land. If it ends up, it could end up breaking inside, back test and go up higher, or you can just keep going up higher. And usually once you break inside the cloud, the magnet's going to be somewhere, on the top of the cloud. So is it going to hit like $75, if before the end of the year? Or is it going to end up not doing that and just hitting around like $40 by early 2025? That is still to be determined. Although if it ends up hitting just 40, in early 2025, that might be a little bit of exhaustive trend here, and that might actually be a little bit time to be a little bit more cautious. So I do expect it maybe to be a little bit more impulsive now that we consolidated sideways for quite some time. But we'll see, right? Bullish cost does happen. These things generally on the monthly here tells you there might be a little bit more runway to go. Perhaps anywhere from like 12 to 18 months, maybe a little bit longer. So we'll see whether or not this ends up playing out or not. I would like to see it play out, obviously. And if it doesn't, we're going to look for signs of exhaustion and we'll go from there. Now, one thing that makes me really more bullish on the CleanSpark monthly chart is if you look at this Super Ichi cloud, which is a variant of the Ichimoku cloud, takes into account of the super trend, and which takes into account a lot of more volume data. You can see that it does have a little bit of a different look to it, doesn't it? So far, the entire candle is inside the Super Ichi cloud, and this is bullish because it looks like it really wants to break inside. And again, once it breaks inside, the top of the Ichimoku cloud is probably somewhere around like the 50s, right? So that might also be a natural target for the magnet to really go up there. And then on top of all that, you also see a little bit more of a whalish momentum change, right? Like you've been going down sideways for 4 months and you have a little bit of a momentum shift over here for just one day out of the month. There's still plenty of days. Maybe we end up having another bearish month. I don't know. But so far, I think that usually when a new quarter starts, which July 1st is going to be the start of a new quarter, generally you have a little bit of a sentiment change. And depending on what happens for first day or first week, it might potentially set the tone for the quarter. I don't know, right? But regardless, it does look like it wants to maybe break inside these resistance here or break out of these resistance here. And that's what it looks like what it's trying to do, right? If you look at the Bollinger Band, you can see that there's still plenty of room for price to go up a lot higher, right? Because the Bollinger Band continues to expand. And that is really allowing even lower Bollinger Bands to like all the way down, right? So this is a very, very nice bull trend. And the upper Bollinger Band expanding is going to allow price to go up to as high as like 21, 22, or maybe even higher. You can break above the Bollinger Band and drag the Bollinger Band up a lot higher. Of course, you're going to need some period to cool down, right? After you kind of close above the upper Bollinger Band for about a month, you end up having another month of punishment, and then 2 months above, and then 3 months of punishments, right? So right now, I still think Bollinger Band is going up. I think we have a lot more runway for it to potentially go up a lot higher, and that's a good thing. So this is monthly chart. Looking at the weekly chart, there are a few really positive things I want to show you. One is, you do may have potentially have a little bit of a trend change over here in terms of whalish momentum, which is positive, right? You're also going to look at a couple other things here. Ichimoku cloud, again, we've just been kind of stuck between the Tenkan, the blue line, and the Kitchen, the red line here for months now. And whenever it tries to break above, it just ends up breaking above and end up closing down below. Same thing if it ends up going down below, we just end up being a wick and end up finding support, right? And so far it looks like the Tenkan Kijun is squeezing very, very hard, and we might be breaking above the Tenkan Kijun for good for this week. We'll see. Again, the Welsh momentum here is supportive of that potential working out. Another thing I do want to show is reclaiming the bull market support band has gotten back above the bull market support band, even though it got inside of it last week. And then also finally, if you look at the Bollinger Band here on the weekly, you can see how tight it is squeezing. Usually when you're squeezing tight, that means a bigger move is to come. Now, I'm not going to just be a bull here and just say it's just going to keep going up from here. There's always a potential for it going to kind of come down to like 13 or 14 range, back test the lower Bollinger Band before going up higher, right? That's always a possibility. But because it's above the bull market support band, because you have Welsh momentum coming, and because currently it's also above the Tenkan and Kijun here on the Ichimoku cloud, I'm going to give it a benefit of the doubt that this is a bull trend, and also because it's just been forming nothing but higher lows and higher highs for about a year and a half now. So I'm going to give it a benefit of the doubt that this Bollinger Band squeeze here on the weekly is probably going to end up being, pretty bullish, is my guess. Now, a couple other things to look at the EMA ribbon, which basically is, you're going to see 20 EMA, 20-week EMA and also 50-week EMA. And you can see basically it's just been using the ribbon, it's just finding support from the top of it, right? Unless it breaks underneath to like 13 or 12 or something like that to the bottom of the ribbon. If it breaks underneath the ribbon, I'll be a lot more concerned this bull trend may be getting a little bit exhausted soon, kind of like how it was over here, right? But so far, there's really no indication that's the case. Looks like we've just been basically bouncing, maybe even forming a little bit of a handle here for this big giant cup, right? CleanSpark really had been looking pretty much a big giant cup forming a handle and forming another big cup forming another handle. It formed another big cup, and right now we've just been trying to form a little bit of a handle over here on top of the EMA ribbon. And so far, this still looks to be rather bullish, right? Again, weekly trend in terms of Welsh momentum is changing. It looks like it wants to keep going up higher. If you look at the GAN, if you're wondering about what the next move is, it going to be like any particular resistance or support down below or above. Right now, price just been oscillating around the 0.382 for a very, very long time. And you have top of the arc right here and the bottom of the arc right here. We'll see which way it ends up gravitating into. If it ends up gravitating to the top of the arc right here, it could hit 22. Might still end up getting rejected initially and go back down and then be pushed a lot higher after that, or it can just push right through potentially, depending on how how strong this Bollinger Band squeeze turns out being, right? It could potentially hit if it breaks above the low 20s, it's going to hit high 20s. If it breaks above high 20s, I think you're talking about 60s, 70s, 80s, 100, 110, which is going to be arc up here. After it breaks above the zone over here, the next one's going to be around 150. That could potentially be where the cycle ends, or it could end up, a lot lower. I don't know, but the way I'm seeing it right now is a lot of energy is being penned up right now. It wants to release it. And right now is, inside the Super Ichi cloud on monthly is slightly inside the Ichimoku cloud on the monthly. I like, the Welsh momentum kind of shifting, if you will, for the month of July, both in terms of weekly and on the monthly chart. So this is a little bit more of a promising type picture. So that's CleanSpark. Let's look at Mara. In terms of Mara monthly chart, you can see that something interesting has happened with the first day of July and first day of Q3, which is if you look at the Ichimoku cloud, you can see currently price looks like it wants to break above the Tenkan over here, which has served as resistance for quite some time. It's been stuck in a range for quite some time. Looks like it wants to potentially break out on increasing Welsh momentum on the MCDX, right? So it's a little bit more of a bullish look to it. Now, if you look at the Super Ichi cloud, it's still stuck in a range, right? It might end up gravitating towards the top of the range over here around $24. We'll see how it reacts. You also have the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud here around 25.5. We see how things react there, but it looks like it wants to get there and challenge some of the things above. As opposed to the regular Ichimoku cloud, the bottom of the cloud over here is probably around 30. So there's going to be still a lot of resistance there coming from Mara. We will see whether or not Mara turns out to just go berserk, like over here, just push inside the cloud like it's nothing, whenever it decides to get going after a nice bullish Tenkan Kijun cross like we had over here. Over here, price kind of went sideways for 3 months. Over here, price kind of went sideways for about 6-7 months, right? So a lot more energy has been built up over here as opposed to here. And there's a lot of similarities over here too, is that price just kind of gone sideways and consolidating. The price is kind of gone sideways and consolidating. The only difference is that over here looks like the whales might have left, and eventually when they came back, they came strong. Here, the difference is it looks like the whales never really left. It's still like about at least like 48, 49%, for the month of April, and throughout May, June, and July, it's just been increasing. There's a lot of whalish momentum there coming in. That is a little bit more promising for Mara. Look at the Bollinger Band. Bollinger Band initially is expanding, and it looks like it's contracting because price has gone sideways for about 8 months now. And we'll see whether or not it ends up grabbing up towards the top of the Bollinger Band, which is going to be around $27. I think most likely it will, if not in July, then maybe in August. And I think that this whole charade has been a little bit overdone. I still think there's a lot of similarity between the price action over here as well as the price action over here. And I think that this whole like Bollinger Band initial expansion, like it did over here, followed by a little bit of a Bollinger Band squeeze, like it did over here, I think it might end up precipitating a bigger move coming for Mara. And I do see some potentially pretty great things about Mara moving forward. Now, looking at the weekly chart, the Ichimoku cloud is telling you that, hey, we're bouncing from the top of the Ichimoku cloud here for reals. We might end up having a little bit of resistance about around 24, right? Like all these resistance are real, but it looks like we've found some pretty decent support and looks like it wants to run. Look at how big the Welsh momentum is for just one day out of this week so far. I mean, granted, it's just one day. Tomorrow can be a brand new day, and we might end up beating, pretty bearish tomorrow. And these things can go plus or minus 10, 15, 20% in a day, and that wouldn't really faze me a whole lot. Today it went up about 13.6%. I really don't care. And it's just one of those things that you just have to be able to accept the volatility before being in a stock like Mara. Looking at the Bollinger Band here on the weekly here together with the Bollinger Support Band, looks like it tries to reclaim the Bollinger Support Band over here, right? And also another thing that happened over this week is looks like Bollinger Band is finally really squeezing kind of tight. I think that another thing to look at the Bollinger Band here, you probably end up getting some of the resistance up here around like 25, 26. I think that's going to be another level of resistance. So really in like 24, 25, 26, and 30, those are going to be some pretty strong resistance above. I still don't think we're out of the woods yet, but I like the fact that it's trying, and I like the fact that it's building a lot of energy over here for the last 7 or 8 months, and that now the Bollinger Band is just squeezing, getting squeezing harder and harder. And whenever it's done squeezing, it's probably going to end up making a big move, and most likely a big move is going to be up because we have increasing Welsh momentum here coming, right? So you look at the EMA ribbon, you can see that right now this stock for Mara, it looks very similar to what it was over here, where you have a little bit of a candle even closing underneath of this EMA ribbon, and over here you have a little bit of a wick underneath the ribbon, right? I see a lot of similarities between this EMA ribbon and also this the trend change over here, as opposed to the EMA ribbon, as opposed to the trend change over here. I see a lot of similarities between this over here and this over here. I think we're just building a lot of energy for a big move that are potentially coming relatively soon. Now looking at the GAN, looking at the Fibonacci levels, I initially was a little bit hesitant about today's price action. I thought 22 was going to be a pretty decent resistance here, and we might end up getting rejected. We might still end up getting rejected here for the week because it's only Monday, right? But if it does end up breaking inside, I think the next Fibonacci level is not until maybe 33. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Mara has consolidated enough, which is a little bit different from CleanSpark. CleanSpark still look like is inside this arc, whereas Mara looks like it might already have broken out of this arc. It's just trying to challenge some of these Fibonacci levels over here. And the next level probably ends up gravitating towards $34. After $34, 0.6.8, which is around $53, going to be a pretty important resistance zone. After that, it potentially might hit some of the arcs up here, maybe even triple digits over the next 12, to 18 months or so. So we'll see what happens, but this is kind of what I'm seeing here with Mara. I think Mara is looking, a little bit better and better, and we'll see what happens. Looking at the next one's going to be, Bitfarms. Bitfarms is a little bit more, interesting. I hate the fact that for some reason the monthly candle for June is a little bit off. I'm going to try to fix it here in just a second. Here, I fixed the monthly candle for Bitfarms. I don't know, for some reason it was just looking kind of weird. But regardless, looking at the monthly chart here, you can still see for the most part it's just been channeling up, right? It's been making mostly higher highs and higher lows. You just made a higher low, looks like it wants to bounce higher, but it's getting rejected by a lot of stuff here above. And if you also just look at Ichimoku Cloud, it got above the Tenkan Kijun, had a bullish cross here around April 2024. A lot of things are looking pretty bullish about it, and it looks like it wants to keep on going higher, potentially gravity up to maybe around $4 over here, or maybe even $5, depending on how impulsive the price action is moving forward, depending on its next move, right? If you also look at the Tsubishi Cloud, you can still see kind of like Mara is just kind of stuck in a range still, but if you look at the regular Ichimoku Cloud, it looks a little bit more bullish, right? So Bollinger Band, again, I think the top of the Bollinger Band here is still expanding. I think it could potentially hit around like 3.2 again, and it could be a good thing for Bitfarms. The Bitfarms chart basically looked very, very similar to Mara's chart. I don't really have a whole lot of things to add. The Welsh momentum is increasing here on the monthly as well, so a lot of things are really, good things going here for the monthly chart of Bitfarms, even though price just kind of gone a little bit sideways here for the week and for the day and for the month, but it's only one day out of the month so far, right? Whalish momentum looks like it's still there. You still have greater than 50% whale, and this is a little bit of a toppy candle here, so the fact that it's kind of gone down is not really anything surprising here at all. A couple other things to look at. Looking at the weekly Ichimoku Cloud, looks like we're still kind of a little bit stuck inside the Tenkan here, which it got rejected, which is probably why price only went up for like 4% today, because we're right resistance over here at the baseline or Kijun, and that is most unfortunate indeed for the short term. But look at the Tsubishi Cloud, that looks a lot more bullish, doesn't it? It looks like it's breaking above the baseline over here. It looks like it wants to go higher. So it depends on how you look at it. It really is a little bit more helpful to look at different indicators sometimes. You do have a little bit of a bullish and squeeze over here too, and you do have price above the bull support band. So all of these are a little bit more bullish indicator with increasing well momentum here too, suggesting a bigger move could be coming, and I think it's probably going to end up being up whenever that happens. Yeah, you look at the EMA ribbon, you still see that it's still way above the EMA ribbon, right? It's still looking pretty decent. I think things over here look very, very similar to over here. So we'll see what happens here with Bitfarms moving forward. But I'm seeing some pretty decent development here in terms of whale, in terms of looking at some of the weekly clouds, especially the Tsubishi clouds, looking very, very nice, right? So that's Bitfarms, but regardless, we're still at some resistance. We still need to kind of break through a couple of things here before getting real bullish again. This top candle here is no joke, unfortunately. And if you also pull up the GAN here, you can see we really have broken above the very important Fibonacci level 0.236. I think the next thing's probably end up gravitating up towards 3.8 to $4. It's probably where price is going to end up going. And whenever we end up challenging it, because we already got rejected once over here, there's a great potential for us to really break above, maybe doing a little bit of back test before going up higher. If you ask me, it's more to some of the higher targets above. 0.618 is around $6, right? The 0.618 is also confluent perhaps with the bottom of the arc over here. So that would be a very strong resistance zone. You might end up gravitating over here, maybe even back test some of the levels down below before pushing up, hopefully pushing up above the arc over here, and another Fibonacci level and another horizontal zone over here, right? At around $7.4. And then if you're able to break above that, if you're able to break above the previous, cycle high here, then you're talking about hitting some of the arcs in the horizontal line up here around the 20s, around the low 20s. And that could be what the ultimate Bitfarm target ends up being the cycle. It could be lower, it could be higher, right? It could be higher. So we'll see how it goes. I think we're just, trying to break above this zone over here. I don't really have too much more to say about Bitfarms. Let's look at CIFR. Let's hope the CIFR monthly chart is not messed up. It is not. So a good thing about CIFR, the way to illustrate it is that bullish cross in January 2024. Tenkan has crossed above the Kijun, and right now price is above the monthly Tenkan. Looks like it wants to go higher. The only thing that's really stopping it is really this zone over here around 5.5. You really have had a hard time really trying to break about the zone for a very long time. But I think we might be getting real close, and I'll show you why here in a second. But that's going to be the ultimate resistance. Just looking at some of the other indicators, you don't look at Ichimoku, look at the Tsubishi, is still kind of stuck inside the range, although you've been just reclaiming the Tenkan as support here for about a year and a half now. So this is actually quite bullish. Whalish momentum continues to increase, although really not quite around like 50% on the monthly, but it still looks pretty decent, right? If you look a little bit more closely in terms of the weekly chart, you can see that 5.5 has just been a monster resistance level, and we've been trying to break above that for almost like a whole year now. We've just really not been able to do that quite just yet. But overall, it just looks like a big cup followed by a smaller cup, cup in hand, or whatever you want to call it. But these look really like a reaccumulation type pattern, and the volume really supports it. When you buy, you have increased volume; you have sell, you have decreased volume. So this whole thing really looks like reaccumulation. Whalish momentum is in. Look at how nice that whalish momentum is right here so far. It looks like it wants to break above eventually, and also looks like things are still above the EMA ribbon. So it looks like things still wants to push above eventually. Bollinger Band is starting to kind of squeeze a little bit tighter, so most likely the next move over the next 2 weeks is probably going to end up being a pretty big move here. Ichimoku cloud very nicely supported by the cloud over here, bounced above, and right now you're just kind of challenging the Tenkan over here. Tenkan is around like 4.7. It's just basically challenging that zone over here. But it looks like it's bounced above the cloud, looks like it wants to go higher. Another thing I also want to show you is if you look at the, again, and you look at the Fibonacci levels over here, you can see that, around 5.5 and also around this arc, around the orange line over here, is a pretty strong resistance zone. And it's just been basically being attacked over and over again. The more attacks, I think the weaker it's going to get. And you're really starting to get into this really confluent zone over here with the arc, with the horizontal line over here, and also with the 5.5 resistance level. I think there's a potential for the angle over here to serve as support again, push price up a lot higher. I think we're getting a little bit close to ending this like ascending triangle look to it. It's probably just simply gone way sideways for way too long. So the next move is going to be pretty explosive. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think it's going to happen. I think when it happens, you're talking about breaking above, and you're talking about maybe hitting this 0.618 around like $9.6, and it could even potentially hit some of the higher levels. $8 also a little bit of resistance here. I think there's a little bit of volume show over here too, at around $8. But you're really talking about the next level is going to be around 10, 9.5, 10, somewhere around there. Let me see. Yeah, I think like 7.89, you're gonna have a little bit of resistance here because you have a little bit of price history here. But the next level is probably around like 9.5, 10, somewhere around here, around the price of his IPO. Above that, you're talking about the mid-teens, and above that, you're talking about some crazy targets up here, like around 40s and 50s, depending on when it hits the bottom of the top of the arc, or maybe even this horizontal zone right here around like $63, right? So we'll see, but I do think that we're at a conjuncture. It looks like we want to potentially break out above relatively soon, and I don't know when exactly that's going to be. Anyway, that's CIFR. You look at IREN. IREN has got a very interesting look to it. If you look at the monthly chart, the monthly chart is again messed up. Just give me a second. Yeah, sometimes TradingView's monthly candle is all messed up. I was able to fix the monthly candle here. And you can see that monthly has really bounced off perfectly from the horizontal zone here around $8, and which is going to be in conjunction with where the kitchen is located here at the red line here too, right? And once you really had the bullish crossover here around last month, June 2024, you're really talking about it goes to the races trying to attack the top, the bottom of this arc over here, right? And it really looks like a very bullish formation that's happening, although I do think that we're trying to get above some resistance here. I'm going to show you here in a little bit. Whale momentum has really kicked in. It's about 50%, maybe a little bit more than 50%, which is a bullish development. Supaichi Cloud reclaimed the Tenkan here as well on the monthly. Bollinger Band is a little bit outside the upper Bollinger Band now, isn't it? I do worry that things are a little bit overextended, but things can stay overextended for a very long time. The low Bollinger Band is all the way down. This is just like CleanSpark. You have a very, very full Bollinger Band expansion. Mara doesn't have that. Bitfarms don't have that. CIFR don't have that either. And IREN has that, and it does look a little bit way too far overextended here about the upper Bollinger Band. But hey, we might get punished later. It might just keep on going a lot higher from here. Whales are in. That's what matters, right? Sometimes. If you look at the weekly chart here, it gives you a little bit of a perspective, right? If I do the Super Cloud, initially I thought the price was going to go down to like $10, $8, potentially backtest some of the breakout zone over here. But instead, it looks like it just basically broke out of the Super Cloud, got a little bit of a tweezer top over here, so I didn't think it was going to go a lot higher. And next thing you know, it just came back and then backtest the top of the Super Cloud, found support, and it just ended up raising up from there, right? This could be it, which is kind of crazy to think about. This could be the correction. This could be the lower high, sorry, the higher low that you're talking about. And next thing you know, price could potentially just end up going a lot higher. Although we are at some pretty important resistance zone, but whales are also in, right? So who am I to argue? The Ichimoku Cloud don't really tell you too much. That's what I'm saying. I would not be surprised if the price end up eventually going to do an ABC, going down here to like around the $9-10 area to bounce up a lot higher. That would not surprise me at all. But so far, it looks like it wants to just bounce from the Super Cloud. It just wants to go up a lot higher, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? The Bollinger Band is fully expanded, and it looks like how these, why do you have a tree store up here? His price is way outside the upper Bollinger Band, and whenever that happens, you end up getting punished and going sideways because of that. But the Bollinger Band continues to expand. I think it's going to allow price to go up higher here on the weekly, but the monthly is still a little bit overextended, unfortunately. Right. So it would not surprise me if IREN ends up not going that far over the next couple months, or it might go up and then you end up getting punched for it later. We'll see. But so far, I think weekly is at least not as overextended anymore, and whales are in. So all these are a good sign, right? But we're at support bands all the way down here, like $8. So if you need to, there's still plenty of support underneath below. The EMA ribbon, the top EMA ribbon is also around $8, right? Which is not surprising because both of those have the EMA, like 20-week EMA, be included in there, right? So you're talking about support level here around like the low 11s, around $10, and also around $8, right? Around $10 over here, and you're also talking about potentially around $8 or so, right? So is it going to go like that far down? I don't know. Like, there's no guarantee that that's necessarily going to happen. That's why I haven't really been selling, but it would have been a good sell if you were sold, selling over here, which is basically hitting the 0.5 Fibonacci level. Also very important resistance, right? Another arc over here is also very important resistance. So this is not really unforeseen resistance here, way outside of a Bollinger Band on weekly. Fibonacci level resistance, arc resistance rejected, right? The question is more where you're going to find support. Is it going to be so the supports I was talking about? Why is the low 11 potentially good support? Because you're also talking about Fibonacci level over here, right? 0.3882 Fibonacci retracement level. It'll also potentially be a pretty decent retracement level over here too, right? So where's price going to go next? If we end up finding support here, it's going to go a lot higher. Would it potentially backtest the horizontal line over here around $8? That's certainly a possibility, but it doesn't necessarily have to do that. So that's why I'm not selling. Look at the whales, right? Like, there's no guarantee it's going to go down. Could it push up above the arc over here in the next few weeks? If it does, where's it going to go? It's going to go up to these horizontal zone right here around 22.5, and above that, it's going to be really talking about like the 30s and 40s range, right? So that's a little bit insane to think about, because just a couple months ago, price was less than $5. It's just kind of insane to think about. But look at how nice prices kind of bounce up and down these arcs in horizontal zone. Look at how nice the GAN is so far, serving as resistance, serving as support in conjunction with Fibonacci levels, right? So that's IREN. I am still bullish on it, and looks like it's trying to find a higher low. I just don't know where it's going to be, right? Looking at WULF, let's see, I hope the monthly chart is not messed up. It is messed up, sorry. Just give me 1 second. Fixed it. Monthly chart of WULF. I'm going to turn off the GAN, turn off the Fibonacci levels. You can see that clearly this is a bull trend, right? Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, book above this ascending triangle over here. And it looks like it wants to push up higher, but you're starting to hit some resistance here. I'm going to show you what resistance this could be, but it basically has a very big volume breakout, and you have a lot of whales for the month of July. This is quite promising. You will end up breaking above some of these resistance above. I'm going to show you what they could be. Looking at the Ichimoku Cloud, Tenkan Kijun bullish cross last month, And right now, price is way above the Tenkan Nikijin. So I think eventually probably end up getting punished for it. But for now, I think we might just end up going maybe a little bit more sideways. Or maybe you could go up higher and drag the Tenkan Nikijin up along with a lot higher. I don't know. But so far, it does look like we're a little bit overextended here. And looking at the Bollinger Band also fully expanded, just like IREN, just like CleanSpark. But you're a little bit way outside the upper Bollinger Band here, just like IREN, right? So maybe we get punished for it later, I don't know. But so far, it is indisputably still a bull trend. And it looks like I still want to go higher, but there might need to be some correction either through time or through price before it can continue to go a lot higher. Looking at Ceviche, cloud's just stuck in a range, but it looking like a little bit more bullish because it's reclaiming the Tenkan underneath below. So the monthly chart overall looks pretty decent. Again, the whales just look like they just want to be in this stock, man. It's only one day out of the month, and they already look like they want to pile in. Now, looking at the whale over here on the weekly, it also looks very, very, very whalish. It looks very, very bullish from that perspective. Looking at the Ichimoku cloud way above, right? Like you thought way above the Tenkan over here. So are things just going to keep on getting overextended like crazy? Maybe. Looking at the Bollinger Band expansion, you have weeks in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far above the upper Bollinger Band. Is that going to just end up keep going like a lot higher? Bam, 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 keep going up higher? Or are we end up going to have some sideways consolidation because we basically just gone way too far, way too fast? I do not know the answer to that. All I know is the whales are still in, and I'm not selling a single share of Wolf until much, much later. Looking at the EMA ribbon is still way above the EMA ribbon down here, right? So it's hard for me to say for sure in terms of whether or not it's going to come back down and back test some of this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and show the Fibonacci level. I think we're at a pretty important resistance level. I think we're hitting the bottom of the arc over here almost perfectly so far for the first day of July. It's going to end up breaking above the arc and get to the next arc around $6. It's going to keep pushing up higher to around $8. Is it going to just keep going up to the teens? Is it going to keep going up to the high teens? Is it going to keep going up to like 30 and 40, right? Those are the questions, but we're simply maybe a little bit too far overextended so far for the month of June and July. We're hitting some pretty important resistance over here. So far last month, we ended up getting rejected 2 weeks in a row. And so far this month looks like it wants to keep challenging with increasing whales. I'm not going to necessarily bet against it, but it would not surprise me at all if we end up going all the way down to like $3, 3.2 or something like that to back test before we go up higher. Would I be surprised by that? No. Does it have to do that? No. And that's Wolf. Honestly, I don't have too much more to talk about. But overall, higher highs, higher lows, looking very, very nice. Thank you so much for listening. After having the 17%, 11%, 13% days, I do want you to be a little bit more cautious if you buy here. You might end up having some pretty significant short-term pain, but I still think it's going to be long-term gain. Anyway, just a word of caution. I can tell you how I think they're going to the moon and all that, but what's the point? You make your own decision based on what you're seeing with my charts. You do the best you can for yourself. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.